Good morning, guys. Welcome back aboard good old Athena. Today is probably the scariest day in my sailing career so far. Today we're going to be sailing through Orca territory. Over the last week or so there's been about 10 attacks in this area, and I think something like 10 sailboats have had their rudders destroyed, and that is honestly pretty terrifying. Today we run the Orca Gauntlet. My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure. One very important detail so we don't get orcas elsewhere in the world in trouble. The orcas attacking sailboats have only been an issue along the Spanish-Portuguese coast and a little bit up in the Bay of Biscay. Our plan for today is to sail from A Coruna, where we're anchored at a little beach right across from the town, and then down along this coast here to Muxia. That's a roughly 45-mile trip, so in terms of distance it should be an easy day. It's going to be a day of motoring because we've purposely picked a very quiet day, both in terms of wind speeds and sea state, in case something happens. Why do we run the risk of sailing through orca-infested territory today? Well, there are a few reasons why I think today is a good option. First off, the weather is dead calm, so if something happens, we won't have to worry about sea state or getting blown on shore. Also, we're going to be in a flotilla of other boats, so we won't be alone out there. And thirdly, there was no attacks in this little area yesterday, and the fishing fleet, according to marine traffic, is about 50 miles north of here. And I'm hoping the fishing fleet is following the tuna and that the orca is also following the tuna. There's a Facebook group to help form flotillas for boats in orca-infested territories. I'll include a link for that down in the description. And that's where we saw a couple of other boats that are planning on heading south today. And I've messaged them that we would like to join them. And I think they're going to leave the marina in A Coruna in about half an hour. The sun is just about to peek out, and I think we will arrive at the breakwater about 10 minutes before the other boats get there. So we'll just be sitting there bobbing around waiting for them a little bit. But yeah, for better or worse, we're underway. And away out there in the distance, we have our 3 friends for today. In our little flotilla, there was a super spiffy US flagged aluminum boat named Hellacious, there was a Norwegian flagged boat named Oliver, and a British flagged boat named Purple Mist. Thankfully, the day was uneventful. We spotted dolphins at one point, which caused a brief moment of terror, but other than that, the day was completely uneventful. After about 8 hours of motoring, we finally spotted the lighthouse that marks the entrance to our next destination. After having dropped the anchor, the very first thing we did was to launch our dinghy so we can get ashore tomorrow to take a look at the town. We used our spinnaker halyard, here shown on our Garmin GC200 mast-mounted camera, to lift the dinghy over the side and into the water. From the other boats we've seen, this seems to be the most common solution. Then we moved the dinghy to the transom and got the electric outboard lifted aboard. I like putting the dinghy up on our arch when we're not using it when we're anchoring. There are a couple of reasons for that. For one, if it rains, well, then it's a lot easier to get the rain out of the dinghy. It was supposed to rain during the night, but as you can see, we haven't really gotten much rain. But if there'd been a bunch of water in here, all I'd have to do to drain it is just to remove this plug. Of course, it's then a really good idea to remember to put the plug back in after you're done draining the rainwater before lowering the dinghy. I have forgotten that little step a couple of times, which results in a lot of salt water in the dinghy that you then have to lift up again and let drain. So yeah, it's best to remember to put the plug back in. So far, our little davit arch has worked out great for the dinghy. It's an easy way to lift it in and out of the water, and also it's nice to have something to grab onto when you're getting into and out of the dinghy. And we are off for yet another round of exploring.
The anchorage is so beautiful. There are trees all around and like hills covered in
trees.
But it's nice. We feel like we're in the middle of a forest, which is something very different than what we've been experiencing, especially being in the marina. So we are really loving it here.
Athena is way over there in the distance. The dinghy is hopefully now securely tied up to there. Let's head into town.
Our first stop is this lace shop. Lace making is a long-held tradition here in Camarillas since the Middle Ages. Camarillas lace is specific to this town, but the roots are so strong here that all Galician lace, which is this region of Spain, can be known as Camarillas lace. Traditionally, lace making was done by women. Here in Camarillas, women would form paladillas, which was where a group of women would meet, usually in an older and more experienced woman's house, where they would learn and make lace. They would work from Monday through Saturday until dusk every night, and usually they met between September and March just to work when there was no agriculture going on. I could go on and on about the influence that lace had on this region, not to mention the demand and popularization by the royal and religious institutions on the industry, and movements by pragmatists in the 17th century that banned lace because it was too decadent and elegant. And you know what? I agree. It is extremely decadent and elegant. But all that information and more can be found here in the Museum of Lace right in Camarillas.
I think we would be justified in calling this downtown Camarillas. It's Sunday today, so most things are closed, but there's a bunch of restaurants here, a few grocery stores. It's a very charming town.
In November 1890, the English cruiser Torpedo sank just off the coast here. The people of Camarillas gathered together to help rescue the crew, but unfortunately, out of 175 crew members, only 3 survived. Because of the town's graciousness, the English Admiralty gifted this barometer and thermometer to the town. They also gave the priest a shotgun and the mayor a gold watch, so it was probably pretty good to be the mayor. But the barometer and thermometer are encased in this building and they're still working today. One thing I can't get enough of here in Spain, we've been seeing them everywhere, are these hand door knockers. Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And this door, look at how beautiful this door is. It's from 1868. I love it.
It shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody by now that Ava is really into old stuff, and I like old stuff too. I particularly like the more rustic buildings. This right here behind me is a prime example of a rustic old building. Right here behind me is a funny looking structure. We've seen them in multiple locations, and apparently they are granaries where you keep grains and stuff in there. They're pretty cool. This one right here is a prime example of a beautiful old one with a bit of moss on there. It looks mwah. And then right over here is a more utilitarian looking one. I believe they're called Horios in Spanish. I'm probably butchering that, but even though they look different, their function is kind of the same. There's plenty of ventilation going through them, and yeah, I imagine they're great for drying grains and stuff. It is the next morning and it's yet again time for us to run the Orca Gauntlet. Today it is only going to be, I think it's 35 miles down to a place called Muros. We do need to round a cape on the way there, and there have been some attacks there. It's been a few days since the last one, so fingers crossed. We do still have our super fancy mantis anchor claw grabby thingy, but when we're anchoring and there's not gonna be any kind of wind really, it is a lot quicker just to use a rolling hitch on the chain. We're not going to be alone out there today. Right here behind us is Zach and Becca aboard Taylor, I think it is, and we last saw them in the Helford River, so it's kind of nice to run into them again. And we're both going to Muros. Right now we're on our dead downwind portion of today's trip. Zach and Becca here behind us look like they've done the proper thing and pulled out their head sail, but it's such a short trip and I'm just a little bit lazy.
And I'm feeling just a little bit barfy. No, I'm not too bad. I don't really usually feel seasick, but I just feel like a little like off, which I'm thinking is seasickness, but I have my ginger, so I'm gonna be good.
So this is our downwind setup for today. Not ideal, but we'll get there. And yes, I am so lazy, I'm not even gonna bother putting out a preventer on the main so we could get that out to the side. It's just a very short leg. In my defense, some of it is laziness, but my arm is also acting up again. I think I was a little bit too eager to start using it again, so it's back to hurting a little bit, so I better not overdo it.
Now that we're on the topic of bad excuses, I think that the only time other than today that I've felt seasick was when we were in Ireland, and the night before I drank gin and tonic. Not a lot, just I think a couple. And then I felt seasick the next day. So we have a rule that we don't drink the night before we sail.
After that experience.
Yes, after that experience, except last night we had friends over and we had just like a couple glasses of wine. It's not like we're like getting drunk, but no. It just seems like alcohol really has an effect on us sailing, or at me at least.
Yeah.
So no wine next time.
Nope.
And just like that, I'm feeling better.
Much better. It's been a fairly calm yet oddly rolly night at anchor. The wind died down, and with the wind no longer able to hold back the swell, it started getting a little bit rolly both for us and for Taylor anchored here next to us. So yeah, we might move to a different spot later today. Yesterday, Zach and Becca spotted a bakery on Google Maps in this tiny little town over here. So this morning we're off to find some fresh bread. The beach is long and flat. We've only got about half an hour until the water starts rising again, so we got to make this fast. The dinghy is all the way out there. Now we don't have wheels on it, so dragging it all the way up here would be a lot of work. Hence the need for speed. This little town is so freaking awesome. There are narrow little streets winding in throughout the town, and then there are a ton of these granaries that we also saw in Muros. I have since learned that I'm pronouncing that completely wrong, but still, that's where we first noticed them. This is kind of cool. I think this is this little local area's water tower. I can definitely hear some water running in here, and this thing is planted amidst a forest of granaries. Bakery located. This was only €2, and it looks absolutely delicious. Getting either a little anchor for the dinghy or maybe some wheels for the dinghy would make life a little bit easier, so we could drag it up further, at least just make sure it doesn't drift away. The high-field dinghies that seem to be so popular amongst cruisers, some of them have a little locker up in front there, which is perfect for storing an anchor. We don't have that, and we also have a slanted bottom in the dinghy, so an anchor in there would just always be rattling around. I'm not sure my little makeshift oar anchor here would have been any good, but it was worth a try. What do you guys think? Are the dinghy wheels worth it in places like the Caribbean, for instance, where there's not a huge tidal range? Let us know down in the comment section. Today took a little bit of a turn. It's rainy and overcast. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. The clouds on the mountains and on the shore are absolutely beautiful. And you know what they say, when life gives you lemons, wash your boat. That and, of course, do laundry. Sorry if the mic's picking up the sound of the dryer. Before we left Denmark, Renskib, which is a Danish manufacturer of boat cleaning products, gave us basically a lifetime supply of their products. This might not look like a lot, but it is highly concentrated. I think there is enough here for me to do around 200 boat washes. For today, all I'm going to use is the R140, that is the shampoo. The rest of the products also work great, but today I just want to clean the top sides. What has worked really great in the past is to take 20 milliliters of the shampoo, add that to one of these spray bottles here, and then add a half a liter of water. And then just use this to spray on the top sides and wipe off with a clean microfiber cloth. Like I said, this stuff is highly concentrated, so we don't need a lot. That should be plenty. I'll top this off with water and then it's party time. I've got the dinghy all ready. I've got the spray bottle, 2 microfiber cloths. Let's get started. I've quickly wiped down this side over here. As you can see, that's already looking a lot better. I haven't touched this side yet, so this is a quick before and after. All that's involved is just a quick bit of spraying. And then we just wipe everything down, which is a little bit tricky when one hand is used for the camera. The transom is done. I've done starboard side. She's starting to look a lot better. It is super easy. The only annoying part is trying to hold the dinghy in place while wiping. A few years back, I painted Athena's top sides with Perfection Pro. So she's not a gel coat boat, she's a painted boat. That does mean the cleaning is easier. It also means scratches shows up a little bit easier. So I don't know which is best, but yeah, in terms of cleaning, painted is easier. As seems so typical, just as I had finished washing the other side of the hull, the clouds went away and we had nice blue skies. But at least Athena's now yet again sitting pretty in her anchorage, looking sparkling white. I didn't use the entire spray bottle on the top sides. I had a little bit left over. I just used that out in the cockpit to clean that. This stuff is pretty freaking awesome. And I know I said Athena is a painted boat and that cleaning a painted boat and gel coat boat are different, but I also had good luck with these products on Oblix, my old boat, and that was a gel coat boat. So yeah, if you are located in Europe, it's worth checking these out. I don't think they ship to the US, at least not yet. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
A few weeks ago in our video, we mentioned that these Murgles that I've crocheted were available on our website, and we put them up for pre-order and we had to shut it down because later that day because we sold way more than I thought would sell. But it's good. It's been keeping me very busy on passages and on rainy days like today. So that's good. I've made a pretty good dent, as you can see, and hopefully by the time this video is out, they'll all be flying off to their new homes across the ocean.
And with that little Merkle update out of the way, we're going to end this week's video here. Next week, we're going to jump down to the next RIA. And also next week, I think we'll have a fun little DIY project because we've got a bunch of materials for making some beanbag chairs for the cockpit. Yeah, we tried those on another boat a few days ago and that was really nice. So yeah, we'll make those next week. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
please remember to leave a like.
See you!